Hey guys, Shane here, so welcome to Volume 2 of Pimp My Sherman, our ongoing M4 Sherman detailing series. And in this episode, we're going to be taking a look at detailing Sherman VVSS Suspension bogies, and in this case, these are the mid and late war variants. There's several types of heavy bogie, if you like, that came into service. They're all somewhat similar, they all have the offset return roller and skid, and they often do share quite a few similarities in their details and assembly, so there's a lot of commonality in this video. So we're going to start off by first cleaning up our swing arms. So this is a little bit of a monotonous step. However, the real swing arms are pressed steel, I believe, so there should be no seam lines or type of casting, if you like, on these. So we're just going to clean these up. Again, it takes a few minutes for the 12 of the swing arms, but it's just a nice detail to add in. So we also have an injection pin mark that we have to remove. So we're just going to sand that down with a sanding sponge. Just being careful not to undo any of the details on the arms themselves, as there is some raised detail that we have to keep. So just being a little bit careful here. And a few minutes of work, we have our suspension arms. Now you will notice that there is a pin mark in the center of the swing axle. You're not going to see that once it's in place, so we're not going to waste our time removing them. So now we're going to start mounting our swing arms to our volute suspension springs here. Draw your attention to the orientation of these swing arms. Just ensure that they flare out and away from the springs to ensure that there's enough clearance for the road wheels. And speaking of road wheels, we're going to start working on our pressed steel road wheels here. However, I'm just going to draw your attention to a detail that I'm not going to add, but I just want you to be aware of it. So these are small little grease nipples that go into the recesses within the wheels. There's not enough hours in the day, I don't bother add them, but just I want you to be aware of it, so you don't give out to me for missing it. And then, if you notice too, there's also a seam line running along the rubber of the road wheels. Now the originals do actually have that seam, however it's nowhere near as proud. So we're actually going to just very gently sand down that seam, just to make it a little less proud and a little bit more on scale. So I like to distress my road wheels on my Shermans, and often the rubber padding on the wheels is one of the first parts to start getting a bit of wear and tear. So we're just going to take a sharp hobby blade here, should I say, and I'm just going to start scoring and cutting little chamfers into our rubber road wheels here, just to create a little bit of wear along the leading edge. And then taking a razor saw, I'm just going to cut some long lines across the rubber road wheels, as well as maybe remove a few little chunks here and there. And once I'm happy with it, I'm just going to take an old brush that I don't mind sacrificing, and I'm going to apply a relatively heavy coat of extra tin, and I'm going to start stippling it on once the plastic begins to become soft. Again, use a brush that you don't mind destroying, because this will be the end of this brush. So now we're moving on to the assembly of the bogie itself. So the Asuka model Shermans have both a workable and fixed option for their suspension arms. So if you use these spacers like I am, you fix your suspension to a fixed height, if you like, or you can use a rubber insert that they provide that actually allows them to be workable. So I'm just going to carefully assemble these. They are notched, so they will go a certain way. And I just make sure everything kind of clicks together. Point of note here, you'll notice that I don't glue the road wheels or return roller in place. They're all left loose so they can all free spin, and that allows me to be able to paint these later on when we come to painting our bogies. So just pulling up an image here of the original bogies, you'll notice that these are actually a one-piece design, so there should be no seam lines running inside these bogies. So we're going to have to remove that. So first things first, I'm just going to give it a quick sanding, just to remove any lip between the two bogie halves. So just going to take a little bit of Mr. Surface 500. This is the slightly thicker version of the surface primer. And I'm just going to apply this using an old brush here. Just a couple of thick coats, again, just to help hide the seam line and just make life a bit easier when we come to sand it flush. So with the seam line removed, now we're going to start adding some filler plates, and these are cut by, I believe these are 0.2 or 25 millimeter styrene sheet, and I've cut them roughly into 6 by 6 millimeter squares, and these are going to go into the back plate where the return roller is. I'm also going to take some 0.8 millimeter bolt heads from Meng's set D. This is going to represent the mounting bracket for the actual return roller that's bolted onto the side of our bogie. So once I'm happy here, I'm just going to slide it in place. And then I'm just going to lock it down with a bit of extra tin here. And then taking the fantastic video from Scale Model Workshop, a link in the description, I made a jig. This is going to be the mounting bolts on the opposite side of the bogie. So Sherman bogies were modular in their design, that you could unbolt the return rollers and mount them from one side to the other. So if one side gets damaged, or you strip a bolt or you damage a bogie, you can flip it around and then swing the return roller around the other end. And these are the bolt holes on the other side. Now we're going to add another detail, and I'm not entirely sure what these are meant to be, but we're going to go to Meng's nut and bolt set from set C, I believe. And again, I'm going to take the smallest open bolts that I have here. I'm going to sand them down, and I'm going to mount them onto the top, roughly just along the seam line of our bogie. I believe these are to do with the mounting of the volute springs. I just haven't come across any actual clear evidence what they are. My source material doesn't really mention it, but all the photographs seem to show them. So again, a very simple detail, but will add a lot to your overall finish of your bogie. Another very simple thing to do is just to thin out the return skid on the top of the bogie. So I'm just going to take a fresh hobby blade here, and I'm just going to scrape down the leading edge of our return skid here, just to get it a little bit more in scale. Then I'm going to clean it up with a little bit of extra tin, and once we have everything together, we have our bogie assembly. So guys, I really hope you enjoyed this. This is a little bit more of a slapdash way of doing your VVSS bogie assemblies, but hopefully some of you might find this a little bit helpful. So guys, thank you so much for watching. I really hope you're enjoying this series. We have some more in-depth and a bit more complicated detailing projects coming up in the future. So guys, thank you so much. Stay safe out there. I've been Shane, and I'll catch you in the next video.